I'm Jack Bowmaster and you're watching UteFans.net.
Welcome to another great episode of The Extra Point presented by UteFans.net, the original home for Ute fans. So it was a party atmosphere at Rice-Eccles Stadium for the better part of 2 quarters, and then the air went out of Rice-Eccles. Utah came out firing on all cylinders against the Baylor Bears. 2 early scores for Cam Rising. Defense played out of its mind, holding Baylor to negative 10 yards in the first quarter and 48 total yards throughout the first half. Blocked field goal by Logan Fano with Tao Johnson returning it for 77 yards for a score. Cal, do you know the last Ute who did that and what year it was?
It's only been done 5 times in Ute history. The last one was my former backup, Jay Hill.
Yep, Jay Hill in 1999 against Wyoming, the defensive coordinator for BYU. So Utah goes out 23-0. We're cruising. Looks like we're going to blow these guys out of the water and cover. And then, Cal, what happens?
Like Whittingham said, we need to figure out that the world keeps turning even if Cam Rising is out of the game. You could feel the air leave the stadium and on the sideline when he jogged over holding his hand. Granted, he's the leader of the team, but there was no man stepping up in the next man up theory that we utilize on the roster. I don't know if it was a different presence in the huddle or if it was concern for what was going on in the locker room with the x-rays, but it was definitely a tale of two halves.
Right. And Robert, I know you had a lot of thoughts via text yesterday during the game. Just wondering what your takeaways are, what you think is going on with this team, and basically, like, what kind of team are we without Cam at the helm?
Well, first off, like, the team did good. The team did great for the next man up, the way that coach would always go about it. Cam, did he get hurt in the beginning of the third, or was it towards
second quarter?
Second quarter.
Okay, so the funniest thing is that I wasn't at the game. I should have been there, but I wasn't at the game because I had to support my kids, and so I was watching it on TV. And the news reporter talked to Coach Witt between the end of the second quarter and the first quarter. And I believe she asked the question of, like, how's the team so successful? Coach Witt said, Cam Rising. He was like, that's why our team they go by. And he said this as I was watching on TV. He was like, the team goes by Cam Rising. If Cam is in the zone doing good, everything is great, it's showing, and for Coach Witt to say something like that, you can see, like, that's legit, because as soon as Cam went out, even on TV, you could just tell that something not right. And as you're watching it on TV, even the announcers are saying the same thing, like, hey, like, the crowd then, like, sucked the air out. Like, so seeing that he was walking to the locker room, it was like you could see that the crowd, everything kind of shift. And he was like hoping that it doesn't shift the whole game. And as you were watching it on TV, you can see that it was shifting, and it was shifting fast. So I'm really happy that we had a big enough lead where the defense just had to keep strong and try not to get down on those 3 and outs. So it was really good to kind of see it from the TV perspective. But once again, like Coach Witt said it, like, after that first quarter, we go by what Cam Rising is going. And he said it's just how it is. And to see that and then to see the dynamic, it's like my Coach Witt, hey, he's a fortune teller. He knows.
Well, football is a game of momentum swings. All sports, all competitive sports, you experience those momentum swings. And when it happened, it's okay, what type of a team are we when we face adversity, specifically the adversity that we face constantly through last year with our quarterback? It was disappointing to see us go flat, and that was when everybody in the stadium decided to go wait in the water lines because people started disappearing from their seats. Unfortunately, a lot of them never found their way back to seats because it was that sweltering hot sitting in the sun.
Right. And Utah's offense effectively stalls in the second half. I mean, we put up 23 points in the first half, and we don't put up a single point in the second half. And obviously, the atmosphere changed a lot. I mean, the Muss wasn't even interested in sticking around to watch the rest of that game. And obviously, it was hot. But, and Isaac Wilson's a highly touted recruit. We really want him to succeed. But how do we feel just getting basically a glimpse of him with SUU and then this game against the Baylor Bears? How are we feeling about Isaac Wilson potentially starting against Utah State next week?
I mean, for me, I think it's going to be a good thing. Like jumping into this, finally getting some really some practice with the starters. He will get those practice with the starters, so the timing could probably be good. The only thing I'm worried about is that I'm hoping we don't close the playbook, because we have seen this last year where we close the playbook to our backups because we're just not sure how we can get things done. But I really believe that Isaac could get it done. It's just a matter of how many live reps can he get? And I really think that a full week of practice with the starters can be something really beneficial. And then Utah State, knowing that Utah State is a good opponent. Don't get me wrong. Any college football team is good, but the caliber of Utah State compared to a Big 12 team, it's night and day. So this would be a good, not warm up. This would be a good way of getting those reps in, those live reps.
It's
Right.
beneficial. It's beneficial we're playing the Aggies and not Oklahoma State next weekend.
Right.
I mean, it's two theories. We've seen him perform in the SUU game. We've seen him perform in game time yesterday. The only positive momentum he has is coming from Kyle, that he is the number 2 and that the team supports him. Like Rojo just said, an extended week of practice with the ones, an ability to get his fingers deeper into the playbook is going to be beneficial. But I have 2 theories on this, and we were discussing it shortly before. I wouldn't be surprised if this is an overall power play or a chess move by the Utah coaches, in the sense that if we are going to have a quarterback number 2 going down to Oklahoma State and then Arizona the next week, wouldn't it be an awesome thinking ahead move by the coaches if they tout one backup and have him in, and then another backup takes the field against Oklahoma State if necessary, and there's 0 film on them and they haven't been able to prepare for him? So that might be a end game that the coaches are playing that we would not be privy to, because speaking with a lot of the fans, specifically veteran fans sitting around me, there's a lot of questions as to why the number 2 stayed in. And after we saw the offensive line decide to take over the game and we run the ball for 10 plays straight, we have great success. But then the ball's not in the air, and you can't be a one-sided offense.
Right. And that's one thing that I wonder about. Last season, we had a real banger in Jaquindon Jackson, just a big guy who was tough to take down, who was fast. And obviously, he went a different direction. I'm curious what you guys think about our running game in general, because it's kind of, running back by committee now, right? So how do you think that's going to impact the Utes moving forward based on what you're seeing in the backfield there?
There were some people that didn't get as many touches as I thought they would yesterday, but then again, I don't know what their game plan or the purpose is. I have had to come to the conclusion that everybody's always a little banged up, and so they want to spread the love and not put a lot of work on one workhorse because the season is long. We've had to deal with injuries, constant injuries, and Whittingham keeps mentioning we're trying to get players healthy and back on the field. So running back by committee is a great approach, but we still want to see one running back get in the groove and have that reliable presence in the backfield like we did with JJ last year.
What do you think, Rojo?
And the way I feel is that sorry, I had to eat my oatmeal. The way that I feel about it is that looking at our history about running backs and everything, we ride the hot hand. Whichever the running back that's doing really good, we always ride them. And that could be a good thing and it could be a bad thing sometimes, because good thing wise is that we have offensive linemen and they're so good. Like I was watching the game from TV wise, and it's like they move that line. They get that, like, even though against Baylor pretty good, but they was able to get up to the second level when they was blocking, which was giving our running backs enough time to pick a hole and get there where we want to at least get 4 to 6 yards a pop, which is
Right.
nice. You know, if like from one spot 4 to 6, that's really good. That's put you in a really good position, especially having a backup. But the way that we've been doing has always been whichever running back is doing good for that game, and then we stay with them, we stick with them. We just like, okay, we're just going to ride it. And sometimes it's a good thing because we have so many good running backs that's back there. And you would think that some of these running backs would transfer out, but this is the thing, is that we have our running backs set up like our D linemen, it feels like, is that we just rotate them in and out. And that's just how it goes. We rotate. And then when we find that combination at D lineman, that's like, hey, this is a really good combination. I believe that we stick with that combination. So think about it in the running back perspective of like, this running back is doing really good. We're going to stay with them. This is the hot hand. We're going to ride it.
So
We do usually ride the hot hand, but it's
Mhm.
disturbing. I was asking myself yesterday, where's the mustard? Dijon had a great game against SUU, but he had limited touches. And I don't know if that was opportunity based, or if it was later in the game plan. But it seems sometimes we outthink ourselves looking for the hot hand, and there
Yep.
isn't a hot hand. There's multiple warm hands, and they're not left in long enough to get hot.
Yeah. Yep. Because
And that the coaches should. I mean, it is what it is.
yeah, and what you just saying, kind of like straight to that point, is that when you play and when you get in those live reps, the game starts slowing down, and you start like really getting into that zone. You start really feeling it. But it's like, with how many touches do a running back get before they start feeling like, okay, I'm getting the swag, I'm sweating. You know, I'm sweating now, so I'm in the game. It's so hard to get that. It's so hard to see it, and that's the sucky part about having a running back like that, because you can't. Running back and quarterbacks, it's hard to really switch them out, because once they get the rhythm, then they're good. But you can switch out a receiver, you can switch out sometimes the offensive lineman, you can switch out, but it becomes tough because the combination of it. But it's the goal of like exactly what you're saying, Kyle, is like we riding a hot hand, but then in reality, the person that's balling should continue to do it.
right. And I think those are all really good points. There's something else I want to bring up before we take a break, unless there's anything else you guys want to cover. But Kyle Whittingham generally prides himself. I think, is he still over special teams? I think he is.
Sharif
Uh,
is. Sharif
Sharif,
shot.
yeah.
Oh, Sharif is? Okay. Well,
Very
regardless,
small. Yeah, very small.
regardless, special teams has always been a priority for the Utes. And yesterday, that was a very disappointing performance. Wouldn't you agree?
It was disappointing in the sense that we couldn't cash in on 2 drives that were crucial with the 2 missed field goals. But we are speaking from a stance of privilege. We have specialists, and I was going to ask Jack. JT Greep, the long snapper, Cole Becker, the kicker, and Jack Baumeister. All 3 of them are extremely consistent and have been, with little letdown. And to see 2 missed field goals, that's a huge rarity for our special teams. And it's going to happen just like last year when we had some fart fumbles and fall downs and gave up explosive plays on special teams. We're not used to that. I believe that the coaches will find a way to alleviate that. It's hard for Becker. You look at it like the wind leaving the stadium. Same with the defense. When Kareem Reed left the field, and I don't know how extensive his injury was, we lacked an identity on all sides of the ball. And it's the most rare for our special team players to go through that. Jack had one punt that was not one of his best, but then recovers and lays one beautifully down inside the 10. We expect them to bounce back like that. After 1 missed field goal, okay, but 2, that's a rarity. That's an absolute rarity.
Yeah, and as a special team, and as us Ute fans, we just know, like you just said, Kyle, and as well as you just said, Andy, is that our special teams is always special. That's what it is. Our special teams has always been a big component to winning a lot of games, whether it's field goals or whether it's pinning them back deep or just making incredible tackles that needs to be made. You know, like our special teams have always played big. So when we don't see them play good or we have like a little hiccup, it becomes like, where are we at? And like to hear what you just said about Coach Witt. Yeah, Coach Witt, he's had a big hands on special teams, but starting to seem like it's starting to slowly not give it to others, but see how other people can handle special teams.
He's got to
Well,
start relinquishing some of the ropes because he's already
Yeah.
stated his timetable for stepping down.
Yes, that's another thing. He like who knows if he's going to step down after this year or maybe next year, but I can see, I can feel, not saying I can fully see it. I can feel that Coach Witt is starting to get to the point of just like, hey, let's give a little bit, let's have this coach do a little bit more, have this coach do a little bit more because eventually he's going to step away. And when he step away, he want to make sure that the machine is still going no matter what.
right.
I would
And
like to blame.
oh, go ahead.
I would like to blame the air leaving the stadium on my little buddy Hawk that sits 2 rows in front of me, who's in 3rd grade, because as soon as it got too hot for him and he left, it seems like the team went flat. So I told him, I said, you got to make sure you stay in your seat because you seem to be our lucky charm. And when he comes back, he witnesses what some might call the greatest play of the game. What was the greatest play of the game in your guys' mind? Was it the Toole sack and then the Richie can't pick up the ball and kicks it further downfield, which was very painful to watch, especially knowing Nate. It was difficult to watch that lack of the scoop and score. Or was it the blocked field goal return?
It's got to be that for me. That's got to be the play. I mean, it's just that's so rare, you know.
That is. That is. I like the strip fumble. To me, I mean, the strip fumble to me plays a big factor. But what you just said, Andy, is definitely right. That's an unusual play that doesn't happen much. And we got points out of it. Instead of the offense stepping out there, we got points from a special team or from a defensive side that added a little bit more cushion for in case Isaac made a mistake or our offense just struggled. You know, it's like these are like cushion plays that's really important where you can score on defense and special teams before the offense step in.
And I'm looking for a defensive turnover during that series. We've got them backed up. And I turned to my neighboring fans and I said, this is when we need to pressure the quarterback and create a turnover one way or another. Don't let him sit back there. And sure enough, Toole hit that kid hard enough that he probably went to the sideline and went up in the stands and got in the water line with everybody else. Like he smacked that kid hard. But the return was good as well, Andy. It was fun to watch. It was fun to watch. I wish we would have had a bit more explosive plays, but like we said, the second half was very dry of those.
Yeah, I just think, you know, we're gonna move on to a few to a break here actually, but you know, we've had 2 games. It's been complicated. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's some question marks right now. And I think there's a lot of nervous stomachs in Rice Eccles and wherever you fans are whenever Cam Rising starts running, you know. So we are obviously a very different team without him. And we just don't, it's hard to say what's going to happen here. As far as the special teams goes, you can look at it one of 2 ways. I mean, one is that we've been very consistent. Cole Becker's a fantastic field goal kicker, just a kicker in general. Jack Bomeister is one of the best punters in the country. We've got solid players on special teams at all times. So we can look at this game yesterday as kind of a fluke, but it makes me a little bit nervous because if we have a performance like that against a better team, it could cost us the game, and it often does. So those are my thoughts, but we'll be right back after a few messages, and we'll see you in a second.
The Ken Garff University Club in Rice-Eccles Stadium is Utah's premier social club. Members enjoy incredible dining experiences, co-working spaces, exclusive member events, and fun game experiences like tailgating, pep rallies, and watch parties. Membership starts as low as $80 a month and is actively accepting new memberships. To learn more about joining this beautiful club, go to kengarfuniversityclub.com to learn more.
Hey, you fans, welcome back to The Extra Point. I'm Andy Brown, your host, joined with Sugar Bowl, should I say Colorado State hero, Robert Johnson, or can I say both, or what do you think, Robert?
You can say either one. I mean, like, to me, just a safety. I mean, I don't know.
Like, ball hawk hero.
Safety for the Utes, ball hawk, safety for the Titans, has his own Wikipedia page, Robert Johnson. And then Mr. Calbert Cal, the Rocket Beck, Freedom Bowl MVP, Utah legend. Both of you guys are legends. Hey, so we were just talking during the break about what happened to Cam. I'll just kind of set the scene here. You know, he's scrambling, he's running out of bounds. He throws the ball away at the last second, then he gets tackled, and there's some debate as to whether or not that was a clean tackle, whether or not that was dirty. But yeah, Cam gets a deep laceration on his finger, out for the rest of the game, changes the tone of the game. What do you guys think about what happened there, and what do we kind of hope with Cam when he's scrambling? Because every time he runs, I know there's a lot of nervous stomachs on the Ute fan side. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, the way I look at this is like, Cal, you said it earlier, and I started thinking about it during the break about chess match, like being calculated with everything. Is it possible that maybe Cam injury is serious, but maybe it's not as serious, and it's like, hey, let's just let the backup do Utah State, and then when we step into that Oklahoma, it's like, we know we can get Cam back. But who knows about that? But let's talk about the injury or the play. I feel like it was a mixed breed of a dirty play, and who placed this water jug stuff so close up, because the player, he's a heavier set guy, so I know that his momentum can take him. But to me, it was like an extra push at the end, and it wasn't like oh, I'm sorry, like, oh, let me make sure he's good. It was like, yo, you're down, whatever, move on. And it's like, what the hell? And like some of his teammates, like they tried to help Cam up before our offensive line get over there and start removing people and like, hey, make sure my quarterback is good. But I still feel like that the player that did it, he didn't have any remorse of like, oh, my bad. It was like a whatever. And then to see how close that damn Gatorade jug or Gatorade table was so close up, it makes you wonder who said this was even okay.
It was Bush League. It was Bush League to have the Gatorade jugs that close. And we mentioned earlier, I wouldn't be surprised if Gatorade paid a little extra something to get their advertising logos closer to the sideline so it was be visible on those sideline shots. A lot of people are debating if it's a dirty play, but if we are going to discuss the technical issues of that play, you have to emotionally remove yourself from it, from the outcome. I relate it to like playing kickball. If you catch the ball and are chasing a ball runner from behind and they slow down to get on third base, your momentum, you're not going to be seeing them slow down. Your momentum's going to go through them. I think blaming the process in this situation is better than blaming a player, because he was engaged as they're going out of bounds. Mm-hmm. He's not seeing the sideline, and the only thing he has to respond to is the whistle. And I wasn't close enough to, one, hear the whistle, or two, see the lack of remorse that you mentioned, Rojo, after the play. It's horrible that he got shoved into there. It's a horrible circumstance, absolutely. But looking at the process, if we're going to look at poor officiating or poor play, sportsmanship, trying to injure somebody, then in the next breath, we have to talk about the intentional targeting that we got called for, because that was a textbook example of intentional targeting with the crown of the helmet. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that was retribution. I don't know if that was called on the sidelines by the Brotherhood, but if I don't blame processes and blame people, specifically in politics, I'll go crazy. Mm-hmm. So the lack of remorse, Rojo, made me rethink things in a different era, a different aura, and a different perspective. And I appreciate you bringing that up.
Well, as far as that targeting play, I mean, that was a good call. Like you're saying, Cal, very obvious targeting. And that we really shook up that receiver. So we never want to see someone get hurt. We don't want to cheer for that. I know some fans do, but not us. So I just think, watching that first half yesterday before Cam goes out, to me, we look like a college football playoff team. We were just dominating, and going into this next week against Utah State, I'm a big Aggies fan. I love Utah State. I always root for them as long as they're not playing Utah. They've had some significant hardships. We all know what those are with their coach and everything. Players leaving the program. They got whooped last night by what looks like a very good USC team, 48-0. So how does Utah fare against this struggling Utah State Aggies team without team captain and leader Cam Rising? If that's the case, if he in fact doesn't play, we know Whittingham plays injury is very close to the vest, so we won't know. It might be a game time decision. Who knows? But what do you guys think? How do we navigate this next game if we don't have Cam and we haven't proven we can score without him?
I think it's an opportunity for players to define their role in the big scheme of things and not being a subsidiary or benefiting from direct plays with Cam. Cam's got to learn when to slide. He's got to learn when not to extend to the sideline. And that boils down to buddy ball. If you have Keithy in there and they've played together for so long, he is going to trust, just like the Chiefs did on an extended play with Mahomes to Kelsey. If the quarterback scrambles, the buddy ball partners know how to get open and they know where they're looking. If that's not there, you're setting yourself up for some heavy contact. And I appreciate the competitiveness of him stretching the play, but you've got to throw it away and you got to slide. Next week gives an opportunity for players to define themselves without the impact of Cam Rising's leadership or ball ability. So I think of it as an opportunity to show the growth and establish themselves before conference play.
Rojo.
And you got to remember that Utah State, like, you have a player that was very, very, very important to us. That was really nice. I really appreciate everything he did for the University of Utah with his play that he had. But he's at Utah State now, and that's Bryson Barnes. We all know how he operates, and he's an opponent now. So I can say this and really mean it because he's an opponent. When things are not going good for him, they drop off the cliff when things are not going good for him. So hopefully our defense can just step up and just get some turnovers. Then all of a sudden he'll fold. Like, we know that, like, he'll fold, and then we'll give our offense the opportunity to open up the playbook and try some things, because, you know, this would be the best time, I feel like, for our offense if we have Isaac as our starting quarterback, where we can not say try things because we don't want to lose a game, but at least open up a playbook and start running some of the plays that's normally for Cam Rising and see how it goes, or see what happens in between. So this would be a good step up, knowing that we don't have our main prime target, our leader, somebody that gets the team going. He might not play. And it's going to be a really good thing for us to see these backups step in and do what we need, because we like depth. And everybody on TV kept saying, like, man, like, this is the most depth that Utah has ever had in a while. And this is good to see it.
Well, they're saying it was a deep laceration. Just kind of trying to get a pulse on this. If I were betting on it, I would say that Cam doesn't play. What do you guys think? I mean, I know we're not in the coaching staff, but
I doubt he plays, because I believe that's his throwing finger, his throwing hand too. So who knows? It's going to take him, whatever they're going to do to his fingers, they're going to have to figure out a way to that, like, almost, I can't remember which NFL player did it, but his hands was messed up and they had to figure out a way to help him hold the ball. So he had to go like a full week of learning how to hold the ball again, because I think it was either his thumb, I can't remember which quarterback it was, but I think his thumb got caught in a helmet or something and it messed up. And it was like he got to hold the ball. So they tried to, like, show him how to, like, re-hold the ball. So I think that might be the same thing with Cam, is that if that is true, or it's like a big cut or something that's not right, and it's on his throwing hand, he has to figure out a way to hold that ball and be able to still get his spin when he throws it, or be able to tuck it and hold it before it gets slapped out of his hand.
right.
It's not a matter of rehab. This is an injury that you're going to have to learn to deal with and hope you don't come back too early and re-aggravate it. It is on his throwing hand. It affects the snap. It affects the grip. It affects everything. If there's anybody that has learned how to bounce back and play through adversity or stay on point while they're waiting to heal, it's Cam. So I'm not worried about Cam falling off if he does take the week off. I think the smart move, and granted, we're not paid the highest publicly paid employee in the state of Utah, that's Whittingham. He has to make those decisions. I think they play it safe. There's no reason, just like keeping Cam in as long as they did against Southern Utah. I don't think that there's a reason to get him on the field next week prior to going to Norman, Oklahoma for Oklahoma State.
And then quickly, another thing before we pass it to you, Andy, is that the offensive line, I don't know. I just feel like they block better when Cam Rising is at quarterback for some reason. As I'm watching it on TV, I'm like, dude is really sitting back there just like kind of like just waiting. And I don't know if it's because Baylor defense line wasn't that they're not that good, but the way that our offensive line was blocking, like Cam legit had all day where he could just like kind of sit back there and he wasn't getting touched at the beginning of the game. See, so I could see the same thing happening when he do step into that, and hopefully we let him chill out for the Utah State game because you got to get used to it. But I do know that it looked good to know that the offensive lineman will block really, really well, and our offensive line is very strong this year.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. It just hit me because you were talking about the difference of the offensive play, and I don't think that would be a decision by the unit. Obviously, that their play is going to decrease, the efficiency will decrease. But what if the blocking schemes, and this would be a good question for Jordan, what if the blocking schemes change because of the height difference between Cam to Isaac? If I'm a defensive coordinator and I know that the backup quarterback is 5'8", 5'9" versus Cam's 6 foot plus, I'm going to start twisting in the middle of the field to take away those vision lanes for the passing.
Mm-hmm.
The one pass that I really appreciated Isaac throwing was a quick slant going into the north end zone in the red zone. And the ball was deflected because it was only several inches over the nose guard's helmet. But it was a good read. It was a good throw. But if you're taller, you can put more air under that. And
that's true.
I don't think that going back to what I started with, it's possible, and I'm blaming process here, that the offensive line is trying to sweep out those stunts, those slants of the D line to open up those throwing windows. So he's got a better vision to throw it. That would throw off the process and the approach of the offensive line. And they might spin their wheels a bit in that aspect too. But again, we're not in that pay grade. So it'll be interesting to see if those challenges continue to grab our attention up in Logan.
So, sorry guys, my camera is moving there because my cat here has made an appearance and is very supportive of Ute fans and the extra point. So whenever we do these, sorry?
Extra point blessing.
Yeah, whenever we do these podcasts, he gets very curious about what we're saying. So, but yeah, great discussion today. I mean, the last thing I would say is, like just to reiterate what I said earlier, when it was a party, at Rice Eccles yesterday, and we were firing on all cylinders. It looked like we were going to run away with that game, and obviously some things changed, not in our favor. But there's so much hype with this team, and it just feels like we get hyped every single year. And sometimes I buy into it. Most of the time I don't. I want to see the results on the field, but ultimately, I do believe that we're a real contender for the college football playoff. It's very concerning, though. We just seem to have the same problems at the quarterback position, and like we've already mentioned several times already. So I'll kick that dead horse one more time. Without Cam, we're a very different team. Now, obviously, we'd love to see Isaac get some more reps and really develop and see what he can do, but hasn't, frankly, inspired a lot of confidence in me thus far. Ultimately, though, because we can look at this a couple of different ways, but we have a very good football team out there. I think we have a really good shot to compete this year, maybe even run the table. That might be a little too optimistic, but just kind of on a parting note here, what do you guys think as far as Utah's trajectory based on just a few short games?
I believe that we're definitely playoff ready. I feel like we can make a playoff spot. Long as, it's the football season. People get injured. People always, in and out. Long as we keep our main piece, which is Cam Rising, that is our main piece. That is our guy. If we can keep him playing and sliding and throwing the ball out of bounds when you need to, we can definitely make that playoff spot. We can make a playoff run, because just thinking about having a team, we get a home field advantage and they come to us. Oh man, like our chances of winning and going, it's even higher knowing that it's going to be in the wintertime, something we're used to. Our fans is going to be crazy. It's just going to change up everything that has to go with playoff football. Like, we're going to step up to that challenge, but we got to get there first. We have to get there. And I believe us watching the first 2 games when Cam is there, we're playoff ready to me.
The Rocket?
I'll concur. I've enjoyed seeing the efficiency and the effectiveness that has operated in the offense. But the hype train is all on the offense, and Cam, like you mentioned, I think our defense is what we ride the back on through into and through the playoffs if necessary, because it's harder to come up with an answer for a defense than one field general, a la the quarterback. You had Nate Ritchie with 9 tackles yesterday. You had Teo Johnson with 7. I'm wondering, and I was going to ask you, the linebacker core has not been spoken of or hyped much in the last 2 games. Is it because they've been silently efficient and there hasn't been any blown coverages, blown big plays, or are there just, it's not a lack of plays. The sacks show that we're getting the pressure, but it almost seems like the linebackers they are being extremely efficient without having to go above and beyond. And I appreciate that on the defensive front. The hype train is a crazy thing. Us being old school, you did not start a hype train, especially about yourself, unless you could back it up. Now it seems the reverse, a la Colorado. Everybody's hyped. Everybody's hyped. And then if they fall short, people just are like, oh, it happens to everybody. So I'm kind of weary of the hype train. They will always find something to hype it up so that when we do succeed, the media outlets can say, I told you so. And that just seems the way the nature of it's going. Moving forward, I feel that we are in that picture at the end. It's our defense that ends up defining our identity throughout the season, because we're going to keep getting beat up, not beat up, but nicks and bruises on offense. And they're not operating as a unit yet. They're still under the headlamp and through the perspective of Cam. The defense, however, I love that there hasn't been one specific person that we can say, you're dominating, because everybody's stepping up and everybody's playing well. So it'll be exciting to see. And you're right. I didn't even think about the possibility. If we host that game, it's outside and it's in Rice. And I cannot think of a more hype environment than a college football playoff game in Rice-Eccles Stadium for the first time on or around the 30-year anniversary of our first major bowl win in 1994 when we won the Freedom Bowl.
Wow,
so
that's true.
That sets the stage for a great showdown at Rice-Eccles, and I hope we get to see it.
Well, great thoughts, guys. Great show. We look forward to seeing everyone next week after the Utah State game. And hopefully we'll be talking about a Utah Utes victory. But stay tuned and go Utes.
Go Utes. Knock the spots off those helmets, boys.